Hi there, Man Alive listener. This is your host, Shayna James. You may or may not know that I started a new podcast. It's called Practicing Love, Have the Best Love and Sex of Your Life After 40. I wanted to post a few episodes over here so you can get a feel for the new podcast and hopefully subscribe to it so you don't miss any of the new episodes. I'm excited to build on Man Alive and support people, all people, with love and relationships, dating and sex, and what it takes to not only keep love and sex alive, but to actually have the best love and sex of your life, especially in midlife and beyond. Though to be honest, whatever age you are, there will be powerful information for you there. So I hope you enjoy this episode of Practicing Love, and feel free to reach out with questions and ahas and also topics you'd like to see covered there. I'm here with Ashlynn Allen, and we just recorded our Practicing Love conversation, how to have the best love and sex of your life after 40. And I love you. I adore you. I love this conversation. I love the humility that you bring to relationships and the way that you talked so humbly about, what it is to have feelings and what it is to go on this journey as someone who your feelings weren't welcome when you were young, and then how to actually wake up to them and kind of unfreeze and not only be able to self-soothe, but to then bring them to a partner in a way that creates connection. I think it's one of the hardest things that we can do in relationships.
And that's why I'm practicing it.
Yes.
Exactly. That's what I love about all of this is that you didn't ask me to share something that I have healed or mastered. You asked me to share something that has been something we're practicing together. And it absolutely is. And I think we're kidding ourselves in our relationships if we are looking for this linear end goal that is absolutely healed.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. I mean, my sense, one of my teachers often said, all right, first these wounds are sitting in the driver's seat of a car, and then they're sitting in the passenger seat, and then eventually they're in the trunk, and you can kind of hear them being like, wah, 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 wah. They're not taking over necessarily in the same way, but I think I'm going to have to pay attention to making sure I'm not losing myself for as long as I live, right? In all of these different ways. It's not just going to suddenly vanish.
Yes. Yes. And that in itself is a lot of love and acceptance for self.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things I also really appreciated is your recognition of, in your past relationship, in your marriage, there wasn't a prioritizing yourself. There was prioritizing the we over the me, and how we talked about, that there is a flow, that there gets to be prioritizing me that's not selfish and not defensive. That's actually a foundation for a relationship to thrive.
That's exactly it. And I do believe if I had done it the way I'm doing it now, it's the opposite. And we prioritize our relationship, but we're committed to ourselves first.
Yeah.
Then each other, and then our relationship. And I did it backwards before.
Yeah. Yeah. Because nobody ever taught us.
No.
No. Anything else that stands out to you that you want people to go listen to?
I enjoyed it. I thought it was great. Thank you.
Yeah, me too. All right. If you're watching or listening, you can either head to my website, shaynajamescoaching.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. Look for Practicing Love, how to have the best love and sex of your life after 40. And thank you so much, Ashlynn.
Thank you.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of Practicing Love, how to have the best love and sex of your life after 40. I am thrilled to be here today with another mother and a coach and a woman who inspires me with her capacity to have fun in life and raise her daughters after a divorce and be real and honest and vulnerable. And yes, Ashlynn Allen, thank you so much for being here today. And thank you for being willing to have this conversation.
Yes, thank you. That was very kind.
Well, you deserve it. So as we're here talking about practicing love, let's start with just a little bit of a background of, I know you've been divorced and you work with women who have either been betrayed or betrayed themselves So can you give us a little sense of your current relationship and history?
It's a long answer. We'll shorten it up here.
Okay.
Um, I would say the long story short is I was on a very linear path when I was a 19-year-old. And I grew up in southern Utah. So I was of the dominant religion there, which is Mormon or LDS.
Yep.
And it's very common to get married really young. So
Yes.
I was just like, love wasn't necessarily a feeling or an action at that point for me. It really was someone is interested in me and they are saying they want to get married. So he
So
fits all of
let's
these
do it.
boxes.
Yep.
And so, yeah, let's do this. And did I feel hesitation? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And even in that first week, did I have this narrative that has popped up every year since is you're not who I thought you were.
Mm.
I had that the first week and it was too risky to say anything to anyone.
Yeah.
And so I just kept it. So
Oh,
for 21 years it was really rocky and
you stayed together for 21 years?
we did
Wow.
therapy. We went through 2 affairs. We worked through a lot of the forgiveness part of self
Yeah.
and forgiveness of each other to rebuild and repair. And for, I would say 5 years, we lived the last 5 years of 21, which sounds so lovely, right?
Yeah.
5 of 21.
5 of 21.
We kind of figured it out.
Wow.
And we were on a really good trajectory. But in those unraveling years of like really starting to choose ourselves instead of just choosing what we thought was love,
Yeah.
which I think was really just choosing a relationship,
Yep.
wasn't choosing what we felt with each other.
Yes.
That unraveling showed us who we really were, and we didn't really line up.
Interesting.
And, 21 years, of course you're going to change. I
Oh,
hope you change.
right. Yes. Right. I mean, I think that's part of the death of many relationships is that people
Yes.
don't change because they stay together.
Yeah. So in the end, we chose to divorce. We, meaning I accepted the request.
Okay.
It wasn't a mutual at the time. And now I know, and I feel this deep gratitude, and I have thanked him
Yeah.
because I do think we grew together as much as we tried and could.
Yeah.
And being apart has truly shown me what love is. And
Yes.
I like hate that because there were good parts of those 21 years.
Yeah.
And it's the duality of I have regrets
Yeah. Of
of
course.
not
Right.
not knowing what love is. Love to me now
Yeah.
is being partnered with someone that we both get to be ourselves and
Yes.
we're not made to be small or ridiculed or criticized. And there might be fear sometimes that pops up of like, that's who you are.
Yes.
That could feel scary. And we still, have those conversations to allow ourselves to expand. So
Mm.
the like shortest version, and if this can make sense, is I feel like what I thought love was, and how I showed up in my first marriage is I prioritized my relationship
Yes.
and then my partner and then myself.
Yes.
And now that I feel a very different form of love, it's reverse.
Oh, beautiful.
It's I'm choosing me
Yeah.
and then I choose him and then I choose us.
Yeah. Beautiful. I could cry for so many things you just said. And oh, that sense of knowing now that love is being accepted and being celebrated for who you are, and that you get to prioritize yourself. And it doesn't have to be this selfish thing. It doesn't mean you're saying no to him or you're, deflecting him, or it doesn't mean any of these things that I think we can fear when we think of, well, I couldn't prioritize myself, right? I couldn't do that. But there gets to be this flow between me and we. And if there is no me that's real and grounded and centered in
Yes.
ourselves, then there's really no we.
And I feel I can't like put it all on one of us in doing exactly what you described.
Yeah.
We both had lost in that marriage who the sense of self was totally gone for both of us.
Yeah.
And we could totally point fingers, but it was also not speaking up, not knowing what we needed and not asking for it. And to be, over 40 and entering a new relationship.
New era, new relationship.
Yes, it's different,
Yeah.
1000% from when I was 19.
Yeah.
I know what I want.
Yeah.
I know what I need.
Yay.
And therefore, I have me still.
Yeah.
There's no way I'm giving up on her again.
Yes. Yes. The way I'm feeling it, I'm curious if it's similar for you, but it's just like the bar is so much higher for staying true to self. Right?
Yes.
Without
Yes.
that, it's like, well, why bother?
Well, the beautiful thing is like 2 or 3 weeks ago, I asked my partner, what is something you love about our relationship?
Mm-hmm.
And he said that we both choose ourselves. Like we're both committed to ourselves.
Yeah.
And in turn, we're committed to each other.
What a beautiful question to ask too, right? To like bring that to the forefront. What do you love about our relationship? What are you loving right now?
Shanna, I'll be honest. It was because we were seeing a lot of negatives. So I was like, what is the good in our relationship?
Thank you for the honesty there. Yes.
No, but it was like, when our focus becomes more negative and critical, everything starts to pile up.
Yes.
And if we can just pause, I mean, that's what I was doing was like, wait, we are deeply in love and have so many good things. Why are we stuck on these tiny things, the 5%?
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have a sense of why that was? Like what had you in that moment stuck in those tiny things?
I believe it's our topic of the day.
Okay, perfect. A great lead in.
Yes. Ashlynn having feelings and Ashlynn seeking validation to be heard and feeling like she didn't receive it.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah. It's so tender, right?
Yes.
To have feelings, which is for many of us, I imagine, growing up as you did, I don't imagine your feelings were validated much.
Mm-mm. Well, and to be honest, I don't know what I was feeling until I learned how to feel. When I was 34, I was given a feelings wheel.
Yeah.
You can find one at feelingswheel.com. And it blew my mind. Like, wait, there's more than I'm happy and I'm sad and I'm mad.
Right.
Like I knew there were more feelings, but I didn't know how to feel them in my body, the sensations, or how I was like the stories I would tell around specific. Oh, that's shame. I recognize that. I had no idea. And so I would say I was very asleep to feeling, and I awoke when I was 34. And as much as I love waking up to feeling, it's like I'm making up for so many years of not.
Yes.
That it's been really bumpy trying to navigate and like how I'm trying to learn all the like what's right, how do I share, and what's too much, and I'm supposed to be soothing myself and validating myself, but also that hurt my feelings.
Also, right, yeah. But also, we're partners here, and we can't do this on our own.
Yes. And so I do feel like the pendulum swing of I didn't feel it all, and now it's like, okay, I'm trying to get to that middle ground of I can feel big emotions and also regulate, and they don't take, not that they always take over, but I'm a pretty good storyteller.
I think we have to go through, and we'll come back to that in a moment, but I think we do have to go through for, those who sort of numbed out, iced out, whatever it was, the feelings, they weren't welcome, they weren't safe. It's like we're stopped up. There hasn't been, I was thinking about this as I was parenting the other day. My kid has big emotions and I have big emotions now, but when I was younger, right, it wasn't, it was like, you're fine, you're good, you got
totally.
This. And so I was like, okay, I've now learned how to be with my own emotions. And then when I watch my kid have these giant emotions, like some part of me freaks out because I'm like, oh my God, what's the right thing to do here? Do I validate first? Do I, come closer? But there's a lesson here, and how do we do this? And
yes.
Right. And so I think it's there's a phase too that I remember going through where I was feeling so much and it was kind of like a runaway train and out of
Mhm.
control. And I had to learn to witness and self-soothe and
Yeah. It's
hold.
funny you say train because when I was doing accelerated resolution therapy for the stories that can come so quickly,
Yeah.
my therapist had me, you're doing it in that type of reprocessing therapy. You're creating a story visually to help your brain rewire.
Wow. Cool.
And so it's like a movie playing in your head.
Yeah.
And I pictured like punching a ticket and there is a train and I have a choice to step onto the train or to stay on the platform. And so it was this kind of funny thing in the beginnings of when I would recognize I'm triggered and there's a story bubbling up, I would tell my partner, or he could call me out and say, "Did you punch a ticket?
Oh, I love that.
Are you on the train?
Yeah.
Like, where are we at here?"
Okay. Which is brilliant that you and he can be tracking that together, right? That it's not just something that's only yours,
Yes.
that you can help each other with that.
And I will say, because this can also get you into trouble,
Okay.
if I hadn't given him permission to do that,
Uh-huh.
I would have likely had my dukes up, like,
Right.
say, what?
Yeah.
Like,
F
of course I'm
you.
on the train.
Yeah. Right. Right.
You don't know me.
You created an agreement, right?
Yes.
Okay, we can call each other out. We can support each other. We can hopefully compassionately ask, right?
Yes.
Not like, are you
Well,
on the
and
fucking train? You're on the train. I hate, get on
yes,
the train.
yes. But it is this, I'm still practicing this, but this is the person I love the most. They are my best friend,
Yeah.
and they're really trying to gently guide me in this moment where maybe I am this 12-year-old Ashlynn.
Yeah.
I'm not fully here.
Yeah.
I've punched a ticket, so I'm like kind of backwards. And the other day I said, I feel like a child when you talk to me like that. And he's like, in this moment, Ash, you aren't fully here.
Yeah.
You are a child. Like, that is why. And I'm like,
Uh,
sometimes I can't see what is happening real time.
yeah. Yeah.
If
It's like our
I'm
brains
like,
get hijacked.
yes, totally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those gentle, as hard as they are to hear, he's my best friend. He's not trying to hurt me.
Right.
His intentions are to help us see this together.
God, what if we could all look at partners and remember that? Like I was coaching a couple the other day and I was like, okay, turn and look at each other. And even if it's hard to find that place where you know you love each other, like feel it somewhere, find it somewhere, whether it's in your mind or a story or your heart or your body, right? Like remember who you really are. We forget. And then we forget that we've forgotten.
Yes. Yes. And really though, my 21 years of marriage was mostly when we had a disagreement, we were the enemies.
Right.
And
right.
so a lot of those patterns never really were able to get diminished because it was me against him, him against me.
Right.
And I never ever pause to be curious and think, is he trying to hurt me? Right. Should I maybe ask for some clarification here?
Well, right. And the reality in that moment probably was, right, if it's not a conscious conflict, we are trying to hurt each other.
Yes.
And to recognize that too, like, okay, we all have parts that are wanting to get their needs met and wanting you to hurt like I'm hurting. You know, we don't have to make ourselves wrong on top of everything else for having those parts, but then we get to choose, right? Do I want to stay on that train? I did get on the train, but look, there's a stop right there. I could actually get off.
Ooh, I like it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, if you want to use that example that you had or some other example, like sounds like having feelings is not easy. And then when you have them, you are learning to self-soothe, but you also want some kind of connection with your partner.
I would say I'm actually very good at moving through a trigger and moving through my feelings on my own.
Got it.
Okay. Mm-hmm. It's when I want the validation of this hurt my feelings. And so it's almost like I'm not asking you to change, but I want you to understand the impact.
Yes.
And I'm going to share that and then we'll come back. But
okay.
I want the validation that even though it was not intentional,
yes,
your actions impact me.
Yes.
I am your love of your life, you say, they're going to impact me. I
Yeah.
care maybe too much sometimes, right? And so I can get to a place where I'm like, okay, I'm soothed, I'm settled, I'm calm, and I'm going to text him. I'm going to talk to him in person or something. But the way I phrase it seems to always be wrong. Because it doesn't go to, and this is a both of us thing, right? We're both working on this. I come to him with feelings, let's say, I don't even know. I mean, half the time we don't remember what we were fighting about, right?
I know.
Like they're the
Isn't that
stupidest
fascinating?
thing.
You're like, I don't even remember what it was.
Because it's not about the thing, right? It's these deep wounds that we're like, "Ee." So I could come to him and say, I feel like you don't respect me when you're late.
Yeah.
That's an easy one, okay? A lot of us can feel that. And what he can turn around and say is, that is a story.
I do respect you.
Where is the question or where is the actual feelings? But what you're giving me, Ashlynn, is an accusation.
Right. Right. Because I feel like is not actually a feeling. It's a story.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so it's just a verbiage thing. But in my head, I'm like, no, I'm sharing my feelings because I said, I feel scared, because I'm adding this like, because here's the story.
Yes.
And he's like, but we're not talking about what you are, why you're feeling this way. We're talking about this story that you've created. Yeah. And so it's funny, but I hadn't connected those things. I know these things, but for me, I sometimes, and especially in my position, and I'm sure in yours, where we're teaching these things to other people, it's hard to be called out.
Yes.
Sometimes the people that we love most are afraid to tell us because, hey, this is something you're supposed to be an expert in.
Right. You're supposed to know this.
Yeah. Or for me, in the beginning of our relationship, I was on this pedestal. So when I didn't do things maybe how I want to, the best, I fell really far.
Crashing down.
Yes. And I was like, no, I'm not up there. Bring me back down. I'm right here.
The reality is we can teach it and we can see it in other people. And then there are times where when the rubber meets the road and we're in the middle of a trigger, none of us are perfect.
Yeah. So for me, it's really valuable and important for me to have a partner who can gently call me out. And these are the moments where, as maybe you're relating to this story and maybe you're like, oh crap, I think I do this. I feel like it's a really common sentence to say. I didn't see that I was doing that. And for 2 years of our relationship, I would say, I'm telling you how I feel. How am I doing it wrong? Like I couldn't see it. And so for him to really break it down and, okay, here's some other phrases you could try.
Yeah. And if we just pause or slow it down in that moment too, I could see a partner being like, hey, that's not really a feeling, and that feeling very shitty, right? Because, then you're just on top of having a feeling, even if you're not saying it, then someone's not supporting you. But it sounds like he's coming from a more compassionate place. And when we can come as a partner from I actually want to know what you're really feeling. I actually want to be in this together.
I feel like you are a fly on the wall in our relationship. Because for me, in those moments, it's very no, I'm sharing my feelings. I feel like I'm doing it right. And he's over here gently trying. And I take it as, I really took it as him saying, I'm better than you.
Yes.
I know better than you.
Yes.
You should know better than this. What's wrong with you? Yeah. I made up a
Ouch.
whole,
oh my God, I just got nauseous, right? That whole overlay from the past.
Yes.
Comes into the present, and then we look and we see. It's it seems like we're seeing our partner, but we're actually seeing. Said that.
That's the moment when I said, I feel like when you talk to me like that, I feel like a child. And he said, you are in this moment. Yeah. You're not. You're looking at me like I am your mom and telling you you're not good enough. Yeah. I'm trying to help hear you, and I'm pointing out gently. You're just hearing it. Through your lens,
through your filter, and how it's so hard in that moment to be the other person and not fight back too.
I honestly, I sat there in it he's right. And all this time I've thought he was thinking he's better than me
Yeah.
or telling me he's better than me.
Yeah.
And it's like everything was so clear in that moment. And I just burst into tears and he just held
Oh,
me.
yes. Which is what you really wanted in the first place.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, I felt like a child.
Yeah.
But he was
Because we
not
all
him
have
in that.
these
Yes.
child parts.
He was definitely my mom in that moment.
Yeah.
And to no blame to my mother, I'm giving my kids the wounds every day. So
Yeah. I know it's
part of
funny.
our job.
I had that thought the other day, like, oh, I don't even know if I should say this out loud. And it's maybe one of those things I should never say, but it was just that recognition of, I think, my kid someday is going to probably sit in therapy and I'd be willing to sit
Mhm.
with her and just be like, this is all the shit that my mom did. And I'm going to be like, do you know how fucking hard it was to parent you? Like,
Yes.
do you know what it took? And then I'm like, nope, don't say that.
I'm in that now. I had a session like that with my youngest a month ago, and it was hard. And I
Yeah.
just listen. Yeah,
Right. And
I'm
oh
sorry.
God, kudos to you that you can listen and hear that and say, I'm
It's
sorry.
hard.
And it's so
That's
hard.
why it's helpful to do it with a therapist
Yeah.
because there's some emotional regulation in that
Yeah.
space where
Yeah.
we're like,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna hear this out.
Totally. Okay. Can we look at like, what did you shift? Because I feel like we're recognizing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not a feeling. So, oftentimes when I'm working with someone and we share impact, it's like, okay, when this happened,
Mm-hmm.
it sounds like you felt disrespected or you felt
Yes.
sad or you felt, right? Like where did you shift that to?
Yeah. So it's it's tricky because it it seems like it's right there. Like he was late is the example. He was late. That is disrespectful in the world's view. So in all my programming,
Objective, yes. Right.
this is wrong and you're wrong.
Yeah.
And that's what he hears, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm right. And when I really dug into the narrative of why does it bother me so bad when he's late,
Yes. What'd you find?
I felt abandoned.
Mm-hmm.
I was scared.
Yeah.
And it reminded me of when I was little and my mom never showed up to pick me up.
Yep.
But my mom was in the hospital in an emergency surgery. I had no idea. Like,
Oh my God.
it's this crazy story of trauma
Yeah.
with time where I was sitting in the dark as a 8-year-old, scared in the street. My
Alone.
dance teacher had left, and I'm thinking, I don't
Oh,
know what to do.
oh my
2
God.
hours later, the doctor's wife picks me up. Like, it's an 80s, it's the 1980s, so it's different time.
Well,
But
no matter what time, to be sitting there as an 8-year-old in the
yes,
dark, not knowing if anyone's ever going to come to get you
yes.
is traumatizing. And it's nobody's fault, right? I
No,
mean,
my
we could
mom was
say,
dying.
yeah,
Like, my mom wasn't like, go pick up my daughter from
right,
dance.
right.
Um, so it feels familiar.
Yeah.
And so being able to do that real time is really hard.
Yeah.
That it feels like I'm being disrespected. But if I actually pull back all these layers,
Yes.
this feels familiar to me because there's a story. So
And a
even
real
just,
experience.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes. So if I can change verbiage to, if I know and can recognize this is familiar, just saying,
Yeah. Hey,
when
this
you're
feels
late,
familiar.
it feels familiar to this time. I felt abandoned. I was scared. I could really use reassurance, like a text in those moments that you're on your way.
Beautiful. Yeah.
He can hear me in that.
Oh, yeah.
But when I feel like you are disrespectful and don't care about me
Mm-hmm.
when you are late, that's harder
Much
to
less
hear
likely to be heard.
because he's saying you're judging my character in that, and it had nothing.
Right. And it's all a you. It's not actually the impact on us. It's like, here's how you're being and here's how you're wrong, like you said.
Yes. So, and yeah, that's not fun to hear. And that's what dating me has been like, is Ashlynn trying to figure out how to share my feelings.
Share. Yeah.
The story I'm telling myself is a Brene Brown-ism that I learned on early on.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of the easiest ways.
Yeah.
So just the story I'm telling myself is that you don't care about me
Yes.
and that I'm just like supposed to wait at home for you
Right.
and
Right.
have
And
no
I'm
life.
supposed
Like,
to just give
All
up my time and all the things
yes.
that are important to me and just make
Yeah.
it okay for you. And
Yeah.
right.
Um,
I
and
like that
then
story I'm telling myself, right? Because then you out the fact
that
that
I'm creating something.
I'm creating something. And sometimes for me that didn't always fully work. Like in my marriage, even when he would say, "Hey, I'm telling myself this story," I would start to defend against it. So I
Yes.
also found that sometimes it was helpful when that story was revealed to be like, and I know this isn't necessarily true, so can
And
we? Mhm.
saying it out loud is for yourself more than them, right?
Yes.
I feel like that. So, um, yes. And I think I also have phrased it in a way specific to this when, I can share. It reminds me of a story when I felt abandoned, but I can also say when you update me, it
Hmm.
gives me choices. Like I
Oh,
can leave the house or I can stay home and wait for you. I
right,
can make
right.
dinner, I can go pick it up. And when I started to explain what I felt was what the disrespect or not caring about meant,
Yep.
it meant he took away my choices. And that feels familiar to when I felt like I had no choices.
Right.
That was so simple for him to be like, oh, I can
Oh,
text
I don't want
you.
to have that impact on you.
Yeah, I'm
I
not
don't want
trying
that.
to, yeah, I'm not even thinking about those things, but yes, I can answer.
Right.
The other one is asking for clarification. So
Hmm.
before, like I've punched a ticket and a story is being created.
Yes.
Hey, can you say that again? I think I
I think
misunderstood.
I misunderstood. Yeah, one of the ways I see it is assuming the best about someone, like
Yes.
assuming, okay, I don't think you meant to leave me hanging and take away my choices. So I'd love some clarification. Like, I want to be curious about, can you tell me what happened,
Yes.
before we go
Yes.
on the attack?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, even coming home, and maybe he comes home 30 minutes later than he said, 1 hour later than he said, I could say, "You're late."
Oh my God,
State
that
it's a
tone,
it's a
that tone,
statement,
right?
but it's
Uh-huh.
annoying. I'm annoyed. He's
Uh-huh. Can
clearly
feel
happy that
the
I'm home.
energy.
Yeah, it's like, cool, I don't want to come in the house. Or I could say something like, I've missed you.
Hmm.
What kept you what kept
Right.
you at work?
Right. Or even admitting the vulnerable struggle. Like, I've missed you. I'm having a little bit of a hard time because I didn't know when you were coming home, and
Mhm.
I'm feeling that abandoned little one in me. But I love you, and
Yeah.
I'm trying to work this through, right? Like, we don't have
Yes.
to be done. We don't have to be, complete in our own process. We can be messy together too.
Yes, and I love that. And truly coming home to that, yeah, it may not be the most welcoming welcome home from your long day,
Yeah.
but it is honest. I've
Oh,
missed
and
you,
it's
and
way different than someone being like, "You're late," or right,
yes.
that venom that can come out, and then the other person just being like, "Oh, well, yeah."
Well, I'm going to
Then
be later next time, and I'm going to
exactly.
sit in the car or whatever.
Not even fun to
But
come home to you anymore. So,
yes. And so I feel this whole process that we're sharing has pushed, it's the opposite. I want connection. I want to feel heard. I want to feel validated and loved and important to you. And yet, by telling you in a way that is hard to hear, I am pushing you away, getting the opposite of what I
yeah,
need or want.
yeah, yeah. I know it's hard, but vulnerability for me is the key, and that I've seen with so many of my clients, and I wrote about that in my book, Honest
Mm.
Sex. It's like the layer beneath the first layer where we tend to, shame, blame, attack, have the stories, whatever, there's something vulnerable under there. And it's way harder to admit to because then we're leaving our hearts open versus
Hmm.
protecting ourselves. But if you do know, or if you know at times that you're in a safe relationship, right in that moment, you'd be like, I don't know this with, but if you actually have a safe and stable relationship, then you get to actually relax into that and remember that and remind yourself. And if you're not in a stable, right, for anyone listening who you're like, whoa, we actually are mean to each other, we're disrespectful, we use
Mm.
these harsh tones, then this is something that you get to consider and think about, like, how do we want to treat each other, and are we willing to be kinder to each other and
Hmm.
to support each other to learn to love better.
Yes. Have you watched Kristen Bell's new TV show?
No.
Oh, you haven't?
What is it?
You're basically describing it. And I think that's why people love it so much. It's just one season right now, but they did get a season 2. It's called Nobody Wants This.
Ooh.
And it's she gets into a relationship, but she's very honest
Yeah.
and vulnerable. And he holds space for what looks like a lot, maybe. And it has been too much for her in other relationships. And
Wow.
he gives her that soft landing. And so people are like, oh, I want that, right?
Yeah.
And the other day, I had just watched this show, and it was like the way he's showing up for her. And when I realized that my partner was doing it to me that same day, I'm laying there going, it's the same. Why am I not seeing how cute he is?
Oh,
Instead of I'm seeing him as this, maybe I created a story that he's being judgmental, or
yeah.
it's just funny. I'm like, wait, I live in a movie with him. He is that cute
He
partner,
is.
just like that.
Oh, yeah. That's
Yeah.
super sweet. And right, and to have the moments where we can reflect and appreciate and actually acknowledge how hard someone's trying, or how they're coming toward us, versus seeing them through that lens or that filter of you are the enemy, or you are the one who's done these things. It's so intense because it feels so real, and it feels like it is now. I'm not gonna, if I let this go, then some part of me might not survive. And I think it probably is because we wouldn't have survived when we were young if we didn't actually protect ourselves in those ways.
Yeah, it's very human that we are wanting to protect ourselves, and that we want connection, and we mess it up how we try to get it.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for being vulnerable and for being honest, and for, being someone who, like you said, like, you're an expert in this way. You're supporting people, you're coaching people, and you, as I think what makes you amazing at what you do is the humility of being able to say, oh, I'm still learning. I'm still growing. I'm not perfect. I'm not claiming to be perfect, but I'm willing and wanting to be in this with as much consciousness as I can.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for putting into words how I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you told me the idea of this podcast is to talk about something that's hard for in my relationship, but that we are practicing.
Yeah.
When I was explaining it to my partner, he's like, I love that, because you're not saying we figured this out.
No.
We are figuring this out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And if I bring it back to, the subtitle of having the best love and sex of your life, right? The thing that really strikes me is that when people come to me to talk about their sex lives, very rarely do we ever talk about the physicality of sex, right? Most often it's, I'm not feeling connected to you. I'm feeling judged by you. There's a way where we can't open and relax our bodies until we're feeling safe and connected and appreciated and loved. And so, right, this as a foundation for then the spark actually has a place to ignite.
yes, I love it.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Where can people find you and your work?
This is Ashlynn. It's ASHLYNN, and that's on social media, or I have my podcast and my website.
Awesome. Fantastic. And you support mostly women, you said, women who have been betrayed or who have been betrayed themselves. That's such a
Yeah, I mean,
beautiful
there's one in
distinction.
each other, but not everyone has my story.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, a niche and then a little more broad.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so glad you joined us for today's episode of Practicing Love. I hope you enjoyed our conversation and gained insight into yourself and your current and past relationships, and inspiration for what's possible. If you like what you heard, I'd be so grateful for you to subscribe and write a quick review to help people find us. If you'd like more support in your love life, be sure to get your free copy of my best-selling book, Honest Sex, at shanajamescoaching.com/free. That's shanajamescoaching.com/free. And we'll see you next time.